Welcome to the Global Gaming Business Podcast. Today's podcast is sponsored by Pavilion Payments, which empowers gaming institutions to create an enhanced patron experience with a complete suite of integrated payment solutions that enable safe, secure, and trusted cash access at the cage, on the casino floor, or online. Learn more at pavilionpayments.com. My guest today is Andre Carrier, the CEO of Eureka Casinos. Andre, thanks for joining us. I'm looking forward to our discussion today. You've got some great experience in your background, and why don't we start with what Eureka Casinos is and
Sure.
how you wound up there?
So, sure. Thanks for having me on. It's
Sure.
always fun to do these things with someone who's got such great history and knows so many people. So it's fun. I think I'll start with this. Eureka Casinos is the only 100% employee-owned resort
Okay.
casino company in America, because I think that's probably something that sets it apart,
Right.
makes it a bit different. And it's also the owner of the largest charity casino in America, which is the Brook in Seabrook, New Hampshire. And my journey here is actually one of friendship for sure. I came to Las Vegas more than 30 years for 3 months because a classmate and friend asked me to stop through on my way to a job I was taking in Seattle. And the city was so kind to me, and there were so many opportunities. I'd never left, and I had made a friend in the early days of Las Vegas, Greg Lee, and his family was kind of a recent addition to the back then to the casino industry in Southern Nevada. And he and I really developed a great friendship over many years when I was working for the Loudons at
Right.
Sahara Resorts, and then the incumbent company Santa Fe. And then when I joined Mirage to run the Golden Nugget originally in Laughlin, and then later Las Vegas. And until I probably got to now, I was a family office kid. I grew up in a family business. Until one day we really just wondered if we could work together and make our lives and our work lives better together. And we made that decision long time ago now.
Right.
And hey, not all friends should work together. That's the truth. We've all
Sure.
heard the stories where they
That's
shouldn't.
right.
But for he and I, it has been, and I'm speaking for him now, but you can have him on a different show and you can see we
Sure.
get a different. But for he and I, it's been just a tremendous blessing and journey together, and we're still in the midst of it. So that's our origin story. If I was
Okay.
Batman, that's the origin story.
So tell me about the Nevada operations to begin with.
Yeah, so obviously the Eureka as a company, its origins start there right on Sahara, at 595 Sahara, and
Okay.
there's so many great stories about Ted Lee. Mr. Lee's
Right.
kind of beginnings is in first understanding that they owned a casino building,
Right.
and then making the decision to get into the business backwards from an office in San Francisco, I think, at the time when he was first coming to understand that. And that's a neat legacy. Might be one of Las Vegas's first neighborhood casinos in a
Yeah.
way, given that kind of intersection of the Las Vegas Country Club and the homes across the street are probably one of the early neighborhoods in Las Vegas. And Mr. Lee bought a parcel of property. Obviously the origin company is Urban Land. They were in the land business. He bought
Right.
a parcel in Mesquite many years ago. And we've grown that property now over more than 25 years, I think, into a regional leader and a golf
Sure.
destination. And it certainly benefited from a resurgence in golf travel.
Right.
A lot of people took up the game during the pandemic,
Mhm.
and that's been terrific. And of course, Mesquite and St. George have grown substantially. And
Right.
I'm also going to say, they've grown well.
Right.
So quality of life continues to be enhanced and advanced. And I think Mesquite's a great place to live, be it for 6 months a year, or to kind of move your life into a different place and a different pace.
Sure.
And so the community's done well, and so the business has been able to thrive.
Great, great. So you got into New Hampshire. What made you look beyond the borders of Nevada for first of all?
Yeah, shortly after making the decision to become employee owned, we were really still coming to understand that really what an ESOP is, an employee stock ownership plan, is a
Right.
long-term retirement benefit where
Mhm.
the investment of those employees is in their own company.
Right.
And I don't think there's too many pension fund managers who would say, here's how I'm going to run your money for you folks. I'm going to have one investment in one city in one industry.
Right.
So it became pretty clear that to do this well, we needed to diversify the business.
Mhm.
And and certainly when you're thinking about how and where, you tend to think about places you know well, and one of those places is going to be home. And part of home for both Greg and I is New England. And so we kept our ear to the ground for different opportunities in a place that we knew and understood. And Seabrook Park is a place that I was in a lot during my childhood, and
Yeah.
stopping through with uncles and godparents and parents. And so when it appeared that it was available, we dug in and did some due diligence and believed in the promise and idea of this. Simply, this is an
Yeah.
idea. What if America's only 100% employee-owned casino company owned the largest charity casino in America?
Mhm.
That flywheel to us
Yeah.
was so unique and so attractive. Um, and the land and location was also very good that we really made a commitment and we jumped in and decided to diversify the company there.
Right. So, for those who don't know, Seabrook Park was a historic racetrack in
Yeah,
New Hampshire. I mean, it was,
yeah,
as you mentioned, it's a place where you'd bring your kids and you'd
yeah,
have a great day at
yeah,
the
yeah,
racetrack. I mean, I don't know if they
yeah.
do that anymore, but
No,
that was so. What did
those
you
are
have to
bygone days. Those are bygone days for
right,
sure.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. So, what did you have to do when you got there in terms of building a facility?
Well, I will tell you, and we laugh about this, but it's true. When we it was a big old building,
Mhm.
racetrack buildings, and the
Right,
track was still there, although it looked much more like a park
right.
and a forest land
Mm.
now. Um, and it was raining on the inside of the building. It was kind of famous for that. The
Yeah,
roof
right.
had been so bad for so long. So we had a lot of work ahead of us to make it a regional destination and attraction, and we also needed some legislation to advance. And the first piece of legislation we were able to advance was sports betting. And we got that legalized in 2019, and we're set to open the sports book with DraftKings
Mhm.
actually days before the closure in
Yeah.
2020 because of the pandemic. And then that following year, we were able to go back to work, and really, a lot of people don't know the state of New Hampshire is the is the second largest Democratic body in the world,
Right.
second only to the parliament in India.
Mhm.
And But we got to work with a lot of great people,
Wow.
and we were able
Such
to
a small
rally around
state.
a common cause.
Yeah.
We passed legislation to allow historical horse racing machines,
Mhm.
and those have been showing up in a few jurisdictions across the
Right.
country: Virginia, Kentucky. Of course, they've been in the West for a while before that. And so we got that done, and we onboarded those games in 21, and then we set out to diversify and build what we in Nevada would say is a kind of a both a neighborhood and regional casino,
Mhm.
both. And
Yeah.
so we added things like restaurants, showrooms, outdoor dining. We built a very large sports book because New Englanders, of course, like their sports, like their
Sure.
home teams.
Right.
Um, and now we have a 90,000 square foot casino with a grand ballroom, and we've got another restaurant under construction currently. We're working on the exteriors, working on a residential and multifamily project on the site.
Mm.
And so, it's becoming um, in its final form, something that, probably anyone from Southern Nevada would probably arrive at, quickly understand what it is,
Right.
but it's done in a uniquely New England way. So
Right.
the Brook has all the personality of its New Hampshire roots.
Great. Great. So tell us how gaming works in terms of regulations and taxes and
Yeah,
that nature.
yeah. So in New Hampshire, it's overseen by the Lottery Commission,
Hmm.
capably by the Lottery Commission, I'd add. And there's a few different constructs. So the casino games, side table games, live games, run under a charity casino construct where
Right.
35% of all revenue is donated to two charities every day. So charities are come forward. They're screened by both the property and then by the Attorney General's office to get gaming dates. They can have up to 10 dates a year.
Right.
And then the casino companies themselves engage with two charities every day. Those charities then receive 35% of the win each day
Okay.
on table games. And then they receive 35% of the state's 25% for historical horse racing machines.
Okay.
So currently, that means that a charity at the Brook, with about a 7-day charity run, there'll be two charities every 7 days, is receiving between $98,000 and $120,000.
Okay.
So this is real money for
Yeah.
everyone from
Sure.
Make-A-Wish to Meals on Wheels,
Hmm.
and it's a very efficient way to fundraise.
Hmm.
It's also a really efficient way to build awareness
Sure.
for organizations when you have that many, 105 or so charities that you're working on behalf of. Look, some of them doing great work, provide great services, and people
Sure.
don't know they exist.
Yeah.
And so when they need them, they don't know they're out there. And so the Brook really gives them a platform as well to help people to know they're out there and what they provide.
Okay. So when it's their day, do they have tables set up with brochures and things like
They
that?
can do that. They can also have some of them will have events on property
Okay.
to give thank yous to volunteers,
Right.
to call for volunteers. They'll kind of spin off their annual gala on those dates so that
Mm.
when the people exit the event, they're also gaming on behalf of the charity.
Yeah.
So the example I give is Make-A-Wish, for instance, has Kentucky Derby Week. We're
Right.
still a really big destination for
Yeah.
race betting. And so they do an Oaks party
Hmm.
the night before the Derby and
Right.
kind of have people come in their hats and regalia. And it's great connectivity between the two. And we've now raised over $200,000 for Make-A-Wish, and so that's over 20 wishes since we started in
Okay.
2019.
Great. So HHR machines are a little unique. I got to play them in Virginia when I visited Colonial Downs and my friend Aaron Gomes, who ran
Sure.
at the time. And
Yeah.
if you don't know, it's just like a slot machine. Do you get anybody questioning, what's going on with this game?
I think, it's funny. If you had asked me before all this started, would horse bettors bet would they play HHR machines? I probably
Right.
would have said no.
Yeah.
Um, but that turned out not to be the case.
Hmm.
Because of course, one of the things that's different about an HHR machine is you can manually handicap it.
Right.
And you get this kind of instant outcome, right,
Yeah.
for your handicapping, which is, can be kind of pretty gratifying. So I think that feature makes it
Mhm.
unique.
Right.
And those players, it brought those players to the game.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of been fun to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have the little horse racing image in the corner. Some
Icon running across. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I thought it was very interesting, but certainly you get real slot players who just don't really care how it's determined, and they just
And
take win or losses one way or the
and
other.
And I would say that evolution came in large part to more of the class 3 manufacturers bringing their cabinets and themes to HHR.
Hmm.
So now you have, pretty much title for title, whether you're on a class 3 floor or you're on an HHR floor, you're going to see the same titles.
Right, right, okay. And so the table games then are operated like a charity casino. I know years ago when Connecticut was involved with the tribes down there, they used that as their entry into casino gaming.
Yeah.
Because Connecticut allowed charity casinos. I guess that's the same thing in New Hampshire.
Yeah, and it's
To a
just
certain extent.
it's been of course, the growth of it has been well managed, and oversight's been provided by the Lottery Commission. And of course, it's been pretty clear that now it's kind of grown yet again, and so the infrastructure to support it and regulate it at the state level has happened simultaneously. And I think what I'd say is, this is a part of the country where, the Boston area really, which is our regional market, um, we're about 45 minutes from the center of city, from Logan Airport, so to speak. Um, they love their table games.
Yeah.
So, this is still a part of America where people like to play poker,
Right.
people like to play blackjack, people really like roulette. And so these are busy pits,
Okay.
and it's real play.
So how many table games do you have? How many HHRs do you have?
Yeah, so HHR, we're up around 500 currently, and table games, we have 20 poker tables, and 18 tables, and then we have an additional sizable fusion or dealer assisted gaming area that gives you almost another 34 positions.
I see. Okay, great, great.
Yeah,
So, Boston is a pretty competitive gaming market right now
yeah.
with the two casinos or the one casino in Boston.
Mhm.
Then you have on the Rhode Island side, you've got the
Mhm.
Twin Creek casinos.
Yeah.
Uh, how do you compete against those, quote unquote, real casinos?
Yeah, I mean, I think well
Yeah,
is the answer to the question. I think we did need to advance the product. The product
sure.
quality had to get better, and we've done that at the
Yeah.
Brook. We've made the investment necessary so that in look and feel, and we're blessed with incredibly good leadership
Hmm.
on property, incredibly good employee owners on property, who are talented long-term professionals in the industry. And so their experience competes,
Yeah,
right? Plain and simple. It's got to compete with Encore.
sure.
Uh,
Right. Yep.
and given my history, I like to think I understand what it
Yeah,
takes to
for sure.
provide those
Yep.
kinds of experiences. And so, I entered to bring to the market a product that competes.
Yeah.
And when it comes to, are we going to go out and build all the amenitized structure of the Encore? No.
Yeah.
But the majority, I think you and I both know, most gamers don't need all of that amenitized infrastructure. A few
Sure.
gamers do.
Right.
Um, and so I focus on the core product offerings that gamblers want. The game's got to be good, the service of the game's got to be good, the environment's got to be good, and of course, food's got to be good, and
Yeah.
the beverage service got to be good.
Sure.
And I think we do that real well.
Yeah. Well, having worked for Mirage, the level of service they provide, and to their credit, even after Steve Wynn left, they've maintained that level of service. So you got to train your employees. What kind of employees did you get there when you first started? I mean, were there
Yeah.
experienced dealers, or did you have to train them from ground up?
Yes. So interestingly, I was really fortunate. I was able to buy a nearby competitor. So I was able to keep a really good core group of
Yeah.
long-term experienced dealers who had talent, who had history in Atlantic City and Nevada, and
Okay.
for many years in New Hampshire. But then we also were able to open up a dealer school. And look, we've been improving our curriculum over the last 2 years.
Mhm.
And I think it's good now. And frankly, between you and I mean, we know like dealer assisted games
Right.
are a great way for people to get reps
Sure.
where you don't have to manage all of the payment side,
Right.
Right? So
Right.
it's
Sure.
a great way to get reps. So having those machines in place and giving people those extra reps at those games and allowing them to matriculate and advance into learning more games,
Right.
we've been able to improve our process. I think our process continues to improve. But yes, we're running a dealer school there every month, and getting great candidates,
Right.
getting great interest,
Hmm.
thankfully.
Great.
Yeah.
And so again, you with your experience at the Mirage, in the Mirage company, you understand that. So do you are you able to communicate that to your new employees?
I think our folks would probably say that they're tired of my uh, Bobby Baldwin, Steve Wynn,
Yeah,
and
right,
Mirage
right.
Resort
Those
stories.
stories,
But
right? Yeah.
yeah, but in another way, look, I'm super grateful for
Yeah.
all of that context and all of those years. And to Tillman Fertitta is another one during my
Right,
time
right,
at Golden Nugget after the acquisition. I
right,
mean, you just these are what you learn is these are special minds, these renegade entrepreneurs that are change agents to this degree. They've got a DNA that if you have the chance to get firsthand learning from it,
right.
it's wild how it stays with you in
Sure.
moments of need the rest of your life as a
Right,
guide. And
right,
so I do think our folks at the Brook and in Mesquite have great context. Our mantra, it's up on brass plaques on the walls, is the St. Jerome's prayer: good, better, best, never let it rest till our good is better and our better is best.
right.
And so any product where we bring to market, we're trying to be the best in the market we compete in.
Sure.
And that means that you got to continually improve. You got to continually commit to getting better. And I think our folks embrace that. I
Yeah.
do. And so, if you had a bad experience today, keep up hope, because as a customer, know that we're out there trying to find our blind spots and get better.
Right. So, are you kind of a hands-on manager? I mean, when I was a dealer at the Golden Nugget in Atlantic City, I was a baccarat dealer, and we were sitting on a dead game, and Steve Wynn would walk in the pit and sit down at the game and talk to us, all us lowly dealers. Are
Yeah.
you kind of hands-on
But
employer?
look, I just said yesterday.
Yeah.
We're working on we're in training for our leadership training group, our kind of rising stars in the company. And I said the most difficult thing for me to um, reacclimate to is how, now having two properties on either side of the country, how it gets a little bit harder to just kind of live on the floor.
Right. Yeah.
I think it's safe to say, for a lot of my Golden Nugget years, I just really lived on the floor.
Sure.
And then I could take a few meetings.
Yeah.
Um, and I think, Zoom and remote work and the amount of people you have that are in consultancy and not employees over time, and time zones,
Yeah.
um, it makes it harder to live on the floor. Now, does it mean that that's not my first love?
Yeah.
No, that is my first love. I mean, I'd rather be in it, in every part of it every day. I'd
Sure.
rather be on the line and in the expo window and taking tickets at the door of the theater. It's just much more natural to me. I think I have an accountability to my folks, particularly as employee owners, to grow the
Right.
business for them and use my time in the way that's most accretive to them.
Right.
And sometimes that's not me, you know, sitting on the floor with them or standing on
Sure.
the floor with
Right.
them. And
Right.
so that's a hard adjustment. I don't know. Talk to me in 10 more years, see if I'm any more comfortable with it. But
Right.
I think I only get less comfortable with it over time.
Right. Well, it's kind of a strange situation. My next question was going to have how does it affect that the employers or the owners of the company? So in some sense, they're your boss as much as you're their boss.
Yeah, look, I certainly view this in such a way that the work that we do is done on behalf of the employee owners,
Hmm.
right? When you're reinvesting in the business, or in the case of the Brook, making a new investment
Right.
in order to grow the business, you're doing it on their behalf.
Yeah.
And, on the one hand, look, I've had public companies, I've worked in private family businesses, I've had all those different constructs. I will say emotionally, this one's very different.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, when I walk in to give everybody in our kind of annual meeting, our state of the business, our share price for the year, um, I feel very different than when I'm on an earnings call.
Right.
Bringing them good news, or in the case of 2020,
Yeah.
kind of that year, bringing them difficult news,
Yeah.
is much more emotional
Yeah.
than any earnings call or bond rating I have ever
Sure.
participated in,
Right. No question about that.
for obvious reasons.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you see the model in New Hampshire of the charity gaming being adopted in other states?
I'd really like to think so. I mean,
Really? It makes
yeah, I
sense.
do. I do, because I mean, look, if we step back for just a little bit of a second and we look at kind of moods, there's
Right.
moods in this country about how much government does,
Right.
and how much government there is.
Hmm.
Okay. And when you look at social causes, social needs, educational needs, civic service needs, there's a point where, okay, there is no government function. That is the realm
Sure.
of charity. So 501(c)(3)s, right? Somebody's got to do that work. And so this becomes essential work in some areas, right? When I look at what Meals on Wheels does, we have still 10% of American seniors have food scarcity,
Right.
right? So it's not a like to have, it's a need to have
Yeah.
for some people, right?
Sure.
And so funding Meals on Wheels to make sure the people in a region, who have food scarcity, get those meals, is a need to have. And where gaming has, pretty consistently been used is to grow tax base.
Right.
Sometimes single purpose. We're going to do this for education, is pretty common. Um, this makes it a really tactical tool
Yeah.
to address some of the most urgent needs of a specific community
Right.
at a specific time.
Yeah.
Right? So I'd love to say I'd be part of any discussion
Yeah.
on kind of redirecting tax to charity,
Hmm.
or standing up new jurisdictions around charity.
Right.
I think about Hawaii right now, and I'm not trying to open a casino in Hawaii,
Yeah.
but there's a great example of where, okay, it's time to turn these time, talent, and treasure towards addressing this urgent need that we have in Maui.
Right. Yeah.
Um, it's a powerful tool.
Yeah, no question about that. And you've given millions of dollars to charity through your operation so far, right?
Yeah, so since 2019, we have given away, now we're coming up on $20 million
Yeah.
to charity.
Yeah.
And so if and I say this, and it's kind of like you and I can do this in a moment. Whoever's watching will see if it resonates with them.
Right.
But I remember when it was a big deal when Ben and Jerry says we're going to give 1% for peace. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh man, that's incredible. If I eat this ice cream, I feel so much better about eating this ice cream right now, because they're going to give 1% of what I spend on this ice cream, so that we can live in a more peaceful world. I
Right.
mean, we're giving 35 cents on every dollar to an essential charity.
Hmm.
It's going to provide services for drug addiction. It's
Sure.
going to for people who have traumatic brain injuries. It's going to agencies that help with affordable housing. It's going to work
Right.
every day. 35 cents on every dollar.
Hmm.
That's different than almost any other enterprise there is.
Right.
And with the resulting remaining profitability of the business, it's providing a long-term retirement benefit for hospitality workers, some
Hmm.
of the most underpaid, underprepared
Right.
part of the workforce when it comes to retiring.
Right. Yeah.
And so if we can make it work and we can actually make it thrive, one of the things we say at our company is the Eureka vision is to show that people and profits cannot just coexist
Yeah.
together, but they can thrive.
Yeah. No question.
And if we can thrive, and we are,
Hmm.
I do kind of want to see other people maybe look at our business model and try to do it in our industry and others.
Sure. Well, that's a pretty inspiring story, Andre. So, what's next for Eureka? I mean, are you looking for other states now? Obviously, you're still trying to diversify the company.
Without question. So anybody's watching this and is excited about, you know, and I say this to people who own resorts, hotels, restaurants, casinos. If you don't quite know how you're going to exit, employee ownership is a real pathway to that. If you want to know and understand what that could mean, please reach out to me. If you want to benefit and learn about our business model or think you could apply it and we can help you apply it to your business, please reach out to me, because the kind of our story is the way we'll grow.
Right.
Is if you're looking for a different way, the Eureka way may be it. And so, yes, we'll continue to grow. That is my obligation and my passion for the people that I'm able to work with every day who own our business. And we will not just stay in this industry.
Right.
We'll diversify industry and continue to diversify geography as well. I love the gaming industry. I love restaurant business. I love the hotel business. I love putting on great shows for people. But I also love making sure our folks have great healthcare. I also love making sure our people have a great and affordable place to live. And so those are all paths and tributaries that we'll continue to explore, and others.
Okay, great. Well, thanks for the time, Andre. It's great catching up with you.
No doubt.
We're going to keep an eye on the company for the next few years and see where you're going, because I think you were one of our people to watch a few years ago, and you've proven that you're capable of that. So again, thank you for the time.
Hey, no, thank you for the time and for giving us a little bit of attention today. I'm always grateful. All the best.
Thanks for joining us on the GGB Podcast, sponsored by Pavilion Payments, the industry's leading cashless payment provider. To learn more about the topics discussed today and all the important issues in gaming, check out Global Gaming Business Magazine. For a free virtual copy of the magazine, subscribe at ggbmagazine.com. To stay current with the weekly news of the gaming industry, subscribe to ggbnews.com. Use the coupon code GGB180 for a free subscription. Don't miss a single episode of the GGB Podcast. Subscribe on Amazon, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts today. So we'll see you next time on the GGB Podcast.